Today is October 12th, 2025, and welcome to the 457th episode of the Videogames podcast. Here on the show, I talk about any game at all, including new stuff, old stuff, and anything in between. Me! My name is Brad Galloway. I'm the one-man host of the show, and I'm also the editor of GameCritics.com, website that uses the full range of review scores from 0 to 10, while also offering full accessibility information on every review that we publish. Hello, thank you for joining me on this lovely Sunday, or at least it's Sunday when I am recording. It's going to be a little bit of a quick one today, I think. Couple games on the show today did not really make me fall in love with them, so I think we'll probably buzz through those, although we do have something pretty cool to talk about at the end. Yeah, okay, whatever, cool. Let's do a show. As per usual, going to kick things off with housekeeping, where we talk about tidbits, news items, industry happenings, basically anything randomly game adjacent that has caught my eye in the last 7 days. All right, let's see, what do we got? Just one thing in housekeeping, but it's a good one. Got a PR announcement from Games Done Quick, which is kind of like a speed running sort of a thing that happens every year. They have a new schedule, which just released for their new marathon event called Games Done Queer, which will feature, and I'm reading from the PR release here, which will feature speedruns from the LGBTQ plus community and will run online from October 31st to November 2nd. It'll be broadcast via Games Done Quick's, that's almost a tongue twister, Twitch channel. Some highlights include Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem, Elite Beat Agents Showcase, Kitsune Tales Kiri, and more. Games Done Queer raises funds for the Lambda Legal and Education Fund, the oldest legal organization in the U.S. dedicated to achieving full recognition of the civil rights of LGBTQ plus people and everyone living with HIV. Lambda Legal works through impact litigation, education, and public policy work to secure justice and equality. And boy, do we need more of that. So this sounds like a great cause. Let's get behind it. Check out these games done quickly and queerly, and donate whatever money we can to the Lambda Legal, because that's something that we're going to be needing a heck of a lot of in the very near future. So props to them. That's all I have in the housekeeping this week. Nothing really notable to bring to the table. Let's go to our newest segment, Stuff We Published This Week. As the person who runs GameCritics.com, just want to shine a brief spotlight on stuff that you may have missed if you haven't gone over to GameCritics.com this week, and I would currently invite you to do so. If you do, you can see, obviously, the last episode of this podcast, number 456. We had a very great, actually, very convincing Death on the Nile, Agatha Christie Death on the Nile review by Konstantin Koteski. Love Konstantin. Been writing for us for a while. Good guy. And he actually swayed me. I was not going to play this game, but I read his review and I'm like, you know what? This actually does sound pretty fun. So those, as the editor, those are my favorite reviews, when somebody convinces me to give something a second look that I had already said no to. Those are pretty persuasive, and I love it when some of my writers surprise me like that. So that is great. We also had a Sonic Racing Crossworlds review by CJ Salcedo, who is a very big Sonic fan. He's very impassioned there. And we also have a Catanaut. I guess I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I've been pronouncing it Catanaut, Katanaut. But in the video review by Eugene Sachs, which I was plugging here, he pronounces it Katanaut, like katana, but also astronaut. Catanaut. He's probably right, so I guess whichever way you want to land on that, go for it. But his video review is up there. There's also our archives, which has several thousand reviews going back over the last 26 or so years. So check out the archives, check out the new stuff. Also, before we get to the main part of the show, just a quick heads up about the Patreon, which supports the show, and GameCritics.com. All the costs of both things are paid out of my pocket, and if you love this show or that website, I would invite you to chip in and help me keep it all running. If everybody listening would chip in just $1 a month, just one, every expense for both places would be covered, and if you can afford it, I would sure appreciate it. And to show my appreciation, I am going to be giving a thanks to all the people who are currently chipping in to the podcast, because I really appreciate you all for helping me get the bills paid, and of course listening to the show. I mean, obviously that too. This week we're giving a shout out to John over at Gaming in the Wild, good friend John, Jay Brent, Jay Monster, a lot of J's going on, Mr. R, and Ray Bosley. Thank you all for contributing. I really, really appreciate it. That is not the end of the contributors. I'm going to be reading off like 5 a week, and so if you haven't heard your name yet, no worries, it's coming up. I will not forget. I'm keeping a little running tally here. So thank you to everybody who contributes. Thank you to everybody who I mentioned last week. Thank you to everybody I haven't mentioned yet. Appreciement. That's French. Also, heads up that we have a YouTube channel. It is at GameCritics.com videos. It's on YouTube. This is hand-curated stuff. It is a small channel. We just kicked it off recently. It's trailers that we like. It's Eugene's video reviews. It's video reviews from other creators at the website. And interviews. I think we've got a couple interviews up now. We also have all of the backlog episodes of Video Games. And I'm not sure if we have the GameCritics.com podcast on there. We may or we may not. I need to check with Eugene, because he's the guy who kind of handles the YouTube stuff. But you can get all that stuff and more for free. Check it out. Like and subscribe. If you would be so kind, that would be great. All right, folks, as y'all know, I'd like to start the main portion of the show with circlebacks, where I circle back to things I've covered in depth on previous episodes. Not going to get into all the details now, but just think of this as a quick update to let you know if my thoughts have changed on something for better or for worse after spending more time with it. Okay, this first circle back is on Endoparasitic, which I talked about, I believe it was last week. This is also going to be pulling double duty as my official review for the game. So, quick capsule, go back and listen to the previous episode if you want more detail. But basically, you are a torso with one hand being kept alive by a parasite inside your body. You are crawling through a research lab to escape and just do whatever it is that torsos with one limb do. Along the way, you pick up some guns, you have to pick up ammo, and a lot of the game is about, like, fiddling with it. Not necessarily in a physicsy way, but kind of like in a, hey man, we intentionally made this game kind of difficult to control sort of a way, because crawling around is actually quite good, and I feel like dragging your torso behind you is as effortless as it could possibly be. That works well. The part that is intentionally difficult is switching between the guns, and then firing the guns, and then reloading the guns. You've got limited space for ammo. You can only have so many bullets or shells. You have to, like, you know, put one back in your belt or take one out. You know, you can't just like instantly shoot, because you need your hand empty when you're crawling. You've got to take out the spent shells, throw them away, put in fresh shells or bullets or whatever. And so that part is the tricky part, and it doesn't pause when you do that. So you've got to be kind of judicious about when you choose to, because you might get jumped for you know, when you're in the middle of doing something, some enemies can come around the corner and get you. It's shown from a top-down, lo-fi perspective. There's not really any gore in this. It's all like black silhouettes and shapes. You can clearly tell what's going on, but this is not like a horror show. Despite what I've described, and it may sound gruesome, it's really pretty straightforward and kind of inoffensive, really. There's just no blood. There's no anything. Your guy's a black outline silhouette. The monster's a black outline, so forth and so on. I think the concept is good. I like what it does, kind of this weird sci-fi spin. And you should have died horribly, but this parasite's keeping you alive. That's kind of fun. It also serves as your health meter, so you've got to kind of, you know, keep it at bay before it gets to your brain. If it gets to your brain, game over. There's all sorts of other details. Doesn't matter. I think my big takeaway is that as fun as it is, I think at about the halfway point, and it's not a very long game, but it just really started to kind of like grate on my nerves. And what grated on my nerves was sometimes the save points were too far apart. And that sounds kind of weird, because these levels are pretty bite-sized. They're not very long at all, but like, you know, you're just kind of going through a lot. Like, you're crawling, switching guns, watching out for enemies, changing the bullets. It's all kind of cumbersome, and it's fine enough. But when you start getting killed, or, you know, the frustration kind of builds. And I think they just missed a trick with having some of the save points too far apart. That's really kind of where I started losing patience with it, where I found I would have to go through stretches that were, to be fair, not very long. I mean, I'm not talking about 20 minutes of gameplay. I'm talking about 5 minutes of gameplay, 3 minutes of gameplay. But it was like so intensely frustrating sometimes that I just didn't want to replay that stuff, where I wanted to get closer to the action or just not have to replay as much as I did. I think so that part, especially, it was fine in the beginning, but about the halfway point, the save points were too long, too far apart. And it will also say that the level design really kind of started to get on my nerves. It's pretty similar all the way through. And when you're crawling through hallways and stuff, and like at a certain point, they really ramp up like locked gates. So you're crawling around, you'll get through a hallway or whatever passageway. You push a button, it unlocks a gate that's behind you. You got to crawl back to that thing. And then you go through that a little bit more, and then you unlock another gate. Then you go back where you were the first time. And it kind of just got old after a while. It kind of felt like they ran out of tricks. And I was feeling like I kind of wanted to do something else with it. It just was really kind of, that part wasn't really super thrilling. Reliance on notes. There's no cutscenes. There's just like notes that you find all over the place, like old school Resident Evil. Not a big fan of that. And I will say that some sections really felt like very cheap and ambushy, which not a huge fan of that. The things that were the worst for me were these little, I don't know, cockroaches or something. Like you'd be in a very tight hallway and then you'd see a little exclamation point go off, which means you're about to get attacked. And then the cockroaches would come and hit you pretty quick, and you'd have very little life in this game. And I just found that like there was a lot of gotcha moments where I just felt like, okay, this is irritating and bullshitty. And even when I knew they were there, like I would die and go back in. It was just really hard to avoid those things. You're crawling. Okay, hold on. I got to grab the gun. Got to aim. That thing's already on top of me, taking a chip out of my life. And that just fucking sucks. So it just, there's a couple of sections that I feel like were too frustrating that really kind of got to me. And I really didn't enjoy that very much. So I think the concept is good. I know there's already a sequel, and I'm kind of curious as to what they brought to the sequel, whether it's just more of the same or if they've really expanded and polished up a few things. I would be curious because I think that the basis of this is good. But I think just ultimately it kind of gets on my nerves, and it's a little too simple and straightforward. So I think overall my time spent with Endoparasitic, I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. I think it's above average in terms of concept and in terms of like daring of what they were trying to do. It just has a few too many rough edges and a few too many like irritating pieces to really be something that like, that wormed its way into my heart, if that's we're keeping with the Parasite theme there. So 6.5, Endoparasitic. Played it on the Switch, played just fine on the Switch. I believe it's also on Xbox. It's on PC. I don't know about PlayStation, whatever. But 6.5 to me, above average, but still had a lot of room to grow. So there you go. That is my circle back / review on Endoparasitic. Up next, one more circle back to Strange Antiquities, which I talked about a week or maybe 2 weeks ago. This is playing on the Switch, 2D. You play a antiquity shop that has magical artifacts. People come in and ask for certain things, and then you got to give it to them. The trick here is that at the beginning of the game, you don't know what anything is because nothing is labeled. And so you need to use a series of research volumes to kind of give you information and to use your deductive reasoning to figure out what is what. And then you hopefully will give people the right thing and you progress from there. Strange Antiquities is started pretty good. Started better than Strange Horticulture for me. Text is too small. There's some irritating things happening in the interface, but it still is fine. A fine game for Switch, basically. But I think I cooled off on it, honestly, and I bounced. I deleted it from my Switch. I was only about halfway through. I think you altogether have to play for a total of 12 or 14 days, maybe 18 days, whatever the halfway point was, because I could see on the calendar I was exactly halfway, and I'm like, okay, I'm good. It's a cool idea, but I just feel like it gets really repetitive, and the clues get really just like abstract. And basically what you're doing is like, someone comes in and says, hey, I want this thing. You don't know what it is or what it looks like. You've got to read through a bunch of books. You've got to do some sleuthing, and then hopefully you pick the right thing, which is fine once in a while, but like, it is the game. Like, that is the game. And I kept hoping like things would open up or that there would be new things to do. But there's not really. I mean, you get a couple different maps where you're kind of quote unquote exploring, which is again kind of just using deductive reasoning to figure out where you need to go. You push a button, it's either right or wrong. You're not walking around anywhere. You're not like looking at things in that way. You're not in a world. I mean, the presentation is fine, but it's like after a while, I just got sick of like reading through those books. Every single friggin' person comes in, hey, I need a thing. And the clues just got so fucking like abstract. Like, I think the one that really set me off was It was something like, yeah, this lets you commune with animals. And like that was it. Like there was no other clue. And so you had to use the knowledge that you had gained based on what you had played so far to figure out. Well, I guess I shouldn't spoil it. But like I just got to the point where I'm like, okay, whatever. I looked it up on a wiki. And I noticed like whenever I start looking up things more than once in a while on like YouTube or wiki, then I know it's time for me to tap out because I'm not really having fun anymore. And I just like, I hit like 2 or 3 or 4 obstacles where I'm like, okay, I don't have enough information. My brain is not making the logical leaps that the developers are wanting me to make. And I'm just getting irritated now. So I bounced. I think it's cool. I think there's a lot of potential there, but I feel like there just needs to be more to it. And just like straight up, like there should be different levels of clues. Like just make it easy for a dum-dum like me. Like I was having a lot of fun when I was giving people stuff. And when it was just like really simple, like, hey, it's an artifact that looks like a tree and it's got a red gem. Okay, and I do a quick scan. Okay, there it is. Cool. But when you say something like, yeah, it's a thing that prevents nightmares. And then I'm like, fuck, okay, I got to like do a bunch of reading to find out, like, okay, go to the book, look up nightmare, what's listed there. They look up 3 different entries. Okay, none of those are the lead. Then you go to the gem book. Which one of these has like a mind attribute? I mean, it's like, I get how that can be fun, but like it's a lot. And to be doing that all the time for every single person who comes in is just like too much. So a little bit too one note with the gameplay, but I think it's a cool idea. I mean, I played a pretty good chunk of it. I played about half of it. So I think there's something good there, but I think for me, I just need a little bit more than that. So I bounced. I probably will not be coming back to it. And that is Strange Antiquities, playing it on the Switch. Text is small, but still kind of playable. All right, let's get into the new stuff right now. Got, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things to talk about this week. A little bit more than expected, but let's get to it. First up, Super Mining Mechs, Mechs. This is a small 2D game, playing it on the Switch. I saw the trailer and I'm like, okay, that looks like it could be kind of fun. You're a person in these little various mining machines. One of them had like spider legs. One had like a big drill or some sort. And you're kind of like digging down in the earth to recover minerals, diamonds, resources, whatever's down there. And, you know, it just seemed kind of like one of those things that you could kind of put some time into just for quiet time or relaxing time. I thought, okay, that looks kind of fun. I might be able to play that like right before bed. I usually hit the Switch right before bed. So that seems like pretty chill way to drift off to dreamland. But I will say it did not hit for me on basically any level at all. It starts off pretty poorly. There's not much of an intro of any kind. There's not really tutorials of any kind. And you just kind of like start digging and it's like, okay, I can see some diamonds and coal or steel or whatever it is in the dirt. And I dig towards it. And like the presentation kind of put me off right off the bat. The animation looks really, really bad. As you're digging through the dirt, it's like you're just erasing like a certain width of the dirt. It doesn't look like you're drilling in it. And when you get to like the resources, they don't crumble, they don't crack, they don't pop or explode or anything. You just kind of like slowly erase them. It looks like a cheap like visual effect that would have been, I don't know, on a really basic computer like 20 years ago or something like that. Looks like something I would have done in the math lab in my high school maybe. So that doesn't look great. And for a game this small, I kind of would expect them to do a little bit more on what's here. Also, you know, the text is really small, very, very small. And they don't explain like what the powers are and how the mech works. There's all these little buttons and doodads. There's a person that says, oh, you know, go collect your first quest. And like, they don't tell you where it is or where's the menu. I'm going through the menu like, okay, so what is the quest? I don't know. And then you got to go back to the surface, which they don't tell you. And then you talk to a person and then they don't really explain what the quest is. It's like a pictogram or something. And there's like some other material. And I'm just like, what is even happening? This should be a very, very simple, straightforward game. It should be super user-friendly. It should be very easy to just pick up and play and put down and then pick back up again. And instead, it just feels like I don't even know what's happening. I don't even understand the thought process that went into this because there are so many things that make it like awkward and user-unfriendly. It just does not feel like the developers really thought about what the player experience is. They just kind of put it out there and just went for it. This does not feel like it belongs on the Switch. It just needs a lot more work. It just, you know, I don't know. The idea of calmly digging through the earth to get resources is still a fun one, but like basically everything about this game just hits wrong. And I bounced out of it after the first day. I'm like, this is just really annoying. My eyes are getting really tired trying to read this text. I'm tired of trying to figure this out. This should be like just the easiest fucking thing in the world, and it's just not. So big thumbs down to Super Mining Mechs. Very disappointing. Okay, moving on. Castle of Heart Retold. We covered this at Game Critics. I feel like it was a couple of years ago. I think I played it on the Switch. It is a 2D action platformer. Apparently it's based on Eastern European mythology. I don't know if that's true or if it's just the way the developers are framing the game. I'm not familiar enough with the mythos of that area to say whether it's an actual myth or not. But basically the game starts out by saying there's this story where a knight was protecting his girlfriend. He got turned into stone, but through the power of love, he was able to come back alive for a little while, and he's going to go and rescue her. Is that an actual story? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. So basically, you are a knight 2D. You've got a roll, a jump, attack. I think that might be it. Oh, no. You also have a ranged weapon if you pick one up. And so you have to just run from left to right and get through these levels, which are pretty generic looking. The jumps are super floaty. The combat is just mashy combat. Like when you look at it, you're thinking, okay, it might be like a Souls type combat. Maybe you got some stamina management, or maybe you've got some, strategy to it. No, it's just straight up just like the cheapest kind of hack and slash. And then the hook is that you start each level with a meter that if the meter runs out, you turn back to stone. So you're only like mobile for a limited time. And as you go, you have to keep picking up these floating hearts that are just around that like refill your heart meter. In the context of the game, it's just like a straight up item. Like it doesn't make any narrative sense that those items would be there. So there's not really a lot of like intellectual buy-in. This doesn't feel like a cohesive world or a cohesive story or cohesive systems. It just feels like a really honestly kind of an outdated 2D action platformer that just I'm kind of wondering what it's even doing here. The game was not great when we played it originally. I want to say, God, what was it? Was it Switch? It might have been on the Switch back in the day. You can look in the archive. We did a review of it back then. And I was surprised to see this come back again. So the original game, Castle of Heart, this game, Castle of Heart Retold. So better graphics. The PR people who are very lovely, very nice. I like those PR people a lot. They sent over a list of like what was different in the game. And I'm like, okay, well, it seems like they've kind of, maybe they've taken some elbow grease to it and polished things up, and maybe it's worth a shot now. And it's absolutely not. I'm very confused as to why anybody thought this game was good enough to give a second attempt to. It was not good back then, and even with all the little fixes and polish, it's not good now. I honestly can't see anybody putting any time into this right now. It just feels so loose and janky and outdated and old, and doesn't really bring anything fresh or interesting to the table. The stone thing just adds kind of a time pressure mechanic, and it just feels just very sloppy. You're taking random hits from people and just the collisions all over the place, and it's just I don't get it. I don't know why anybody thought this was worth doing. Maybe they plugged it into ChatGPT and they thought they could get a quick upgrade from it. I don't know. I'm making that up. I'm not saying that as a fact. I'm just saying like I struggle to think that anybody thought this was worth putting effort into. So maybe they had a way to do it really quickly and easily. But honestly, it's not worth your time. It's just not something I can recommend. And I didn't play it for very long. It just really did not seem to be much of an improvement over the first one, and the first one was already not great. So Castle of Heart Retold, not sure why they went for it. Next up, probably gonna make some people upset. That's okay. That's what I do here. Hades 2, playing that, had to buy it, did not get a code, just paid for it out of the cash in my pocket, which is always at a premium, and I'm always very hesitant to buy anything at full price. But a lot of my friends were playing it. Everybody was excited. I had a pretty good time with the first Hades, despite it being pretty hard and having some frustration. But eventually did finish it one time. Did not go back for like 10 more times or whatever it takes to fully unlock the whole thing. But I'm like, all right, that was fun. I'm glad I went back and did it. That was good times. I thought Hades was great back in the day, and it clearly has had a large impact on the indie game scene, and also specifically on the roguelike indie game scene. That is for sure. I think like the most influential games in terms of roguelikes ish in the last few years, certainly Hades, and also I would put Vampire Survivors in there as well. Kind of, but that's a discussion for a different day. Regardless, Hades 2 is here, and it's cool. It's good. It's exactly what you think it would be. I did not put a ton of time into it. I think I probably played it for maybe like 10 hours or something like that, which is like a lot. It's kind of feels weird to say, well, 10 hours isn't that much, but shit, man, a lot can happen in 10 hours. You can live a lot of life in 10 hours. Like crazy things can happen in 10 hours. So only in the world of video games do we feel like 10 hours is not a very long period of time. But man, that's in the right context. 10 hours is a lot of time. So with that in mind, I guess I just don't have a lot to say about it. I'm playing it on the Switch 1. Runs totally fine. Runs great. No performance problems at all, which I was wondering about. But good job, Supergiant, because it runs like a dream. It looks basically just like, on par with Hades 1, and Hades 1 looked great, so I think that's fine. I think, there's just bigger, better, more of everything. There's different weapons. I think you start off with like a magic staff or something like that. You get some daggers, which I wasn't a big fan of. You get an axe, which wasn't really my jam. You get some torches, which I've been using the most. I like the torches the most. They kind of act like guns, basically, because you just like fireballs all over the place. And I thought that was fine. There's all sorts of systems. It's like the same kind of unlock stuff. You go in, you get some resources, you come back, you unlock something. There's like upgrades that you can turn on and off as you put points into them. Like better attack, faster movement, stuff like that. You can kind of tweak that as you go. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. Like literally nothing wrong with it. I think it's finely produced. I think it looks good, smooth to play. It just feels to me, and this could just be me. I'm certainly not criticizing the game here. I'm just speaking my thoughts. And it just feels exactly like more of the same. And if you want more of that, then I think you're going to be well served. I guess I don't know what I wanted. I guess I was just curious to see how different it would be or what else they would bring to the table. And I feel like it stays pretty close to the original formula. I mean, obviously, new main character, there's story bits, new art. I mean, it's not like a carbon copy. I'm not accusing anybody of dragging their feet on this one. It just feels like they stayed pretty close to the original template. And that's fine. But I think at this point in the game, I mean, what is today? It's October. I feel like this just wasn't really what I was in the market for, maybe. So that's fine. I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad about it. I mean, I'm sure I'll chip away at it as time goes by, but it's just not what I'm in the market for. And I think just that feeling of like, okay, if I need to make some progress in this, I'm going to have to just play this like a lot. I'm going to have to go on a bunch of grinding runs, and I'm not going to be able to beat it for a while, and I'll have to unlock some weapons, and I'll have to power up those weapons, and I'll have to power myself up a little bit more. It's kind of that like long form metagame where like okay, so let me back up. I play all the roguelikes. You guys know this. You guys, if you listen to the show for any length of time, I play like basically every single roguelike that comes out. Roguelikes and turn-based strategy are where I am happiest. And I play like all of them. So I've got a lot of experience in both these genres. And one thing that I kind of don't like in the last few years, one of the trends specifically in roguelikes, is that there is this new type of roguelike where it is like the meta grind, where you actually don't really have a chance of beating the game for quite some time because you're just not strong enough. You just don't have enough life. You just don't have enough options open. You need to like go on a number of like doomed to fail runs before you get enough resources to unlock the powers that you need in order to get stronger. And that just takes time. It's just time served. It's just like a number of runs, And that kind of roguelike, I can see the appeal of it. And I like the idea of getting stronger over time in order to boost your chances of ultimately finishing the game. But I also believe that there should be a world in which when you start a roguelike, you could get lucky on the very first try. You get good drops or you make a good build and you could beat the game theoretically on your first try. Now that is, I think, the ultimate roguelike to me. And there's many of them out there. Probably not in the last couple years because everybody's gone to the metagrind aspect, but back in the day when you played a roguelike, you could start from fucking nothing, get a couple good drops, and just go all the way. Like, you'd be very tense and nervous, and you'd get excited when you got a good drop, and you'd be like very creative with the resources and managing things, and that's like a really good time to me. The original Shiren is probably the best example of that. If you've ever played like the older Shiren games, that was great. I love those, just the moment-to-moment strategizing, using what you've got. And I think that quality has been lost with roguelikes over the most recent years. I think it really came into full focus with Oh, Dead Cells. Dead Cells, I think, is the first game that I can remember anyway that really hard leaned into the, like, you need to metagrind this in order to finish it. I don't think there was any possibility of, like, anybody just, like, picking up Dead Cells at the get-go and then being able to finish the game. I just don't think that's possible. And so I feel like I feel the grind in Hades 2. I felt it right away. And I'm like, I just don't want to commit that much time to it. I think that what I played was fun, but I just don't want to have to get through 50 runs before I've got, like, even a remote chance, a snowball's chance of beating the game. So for that reason, I think I just kind of put it down. I just didn't want to devote the hours to it. Got a lot of other stuff to play before the end of the year. And I get it. I finished the first Hades. I put the time into the first Hades. I saw what it did. I liked what it did. I learned it. I understood it. I think it was good. But I just don't think I need to do that again. At least not right now. Maybe I'll pick it up next year when I need something to chip away at, or maybe when I'm just feeling like, you know, when I want something comfortable or whatever. Again, no criticism. It's nothing wrong with it at all. I just don't think that's what I'm in the market for. And I kind of just put it down, and I do not think I'll be coming back to it anytime in the near future. But there you go. That is Hades 2. Moving on, this is yet another Zombie Survivors. So this one came out of nowhere, just popped up in my inbox, and PR was nice enough to offer me a code, and I accepted. Unfortunately, the code they sent me had already been redeemed by someone else, and that does happen occasionally in the PR game. Sometimes people forget which one they've cut and pasted. They send one twice on accident. No big deal. It's not a problem at all. They said they're going to send me a new one. That's cool. I shall look forward to it. But in the meantime, I was only able to play the demo, which is available for free. Was it on Xbox? I feel like it was on Xbox. Yes, I'm pretty sure it was on Xbox. And so I jumped into the demo just to give it a quick shot because I was planning on talking about it on this show. So I'll follow up later on with further impressions once I get the full code. But for now, just know that my thoughts and feelings are based on the demo, which is still up. Basically, this is a Vampire Survivors-like, which is fine. Excuse me, frog in my throat there. Yeah, because this is still a pretty new genre. I think there's loads of room to experiment and grow and to try new things. Vampire Survivors laid down a just incredibly solid foundation for people to build on. And there have been a couple standouts here and there. But most of them, I think, are kind of like staying a little bit too safe with it. But I'm always curious to see what people are doing. I want to see this genre grow and develop and blossom. So this one caught my attention. You are a soldier of some sort in a zombie apocalypse of some sort, and that's okay. I don't think you really need a ton of story in these games. I mean, I'd be open to it, not mad at it if it shows up, but I don't think you need it. So you just kind of begin there. You have three classes to choose from. You've got like your, I don't know, regular Marine, you got a heavy gunner, and you've got I want to say it's a medic, I think. And then you get dropped into this little area, just kind of an open field, you know, Vampire Survivors kind of a thing. The camera is not top down. It's more like isometric 3/4 view, but pretty high up. So it kind of almost feels like a top down. And then you just get started. It kind of works as you would expect, like the basic fundamentals of this genre. You auto shoot, although you can turn on manual shooting if you want. The developers say in the menu they did not design the game to be played that way. But if you want to, you can, which I guess is fine because it seems like that's the first thing that anybody ever asks for when developers are asking to do mods and stuff like that. It's always like, let me just aim for myself. So they put the option there right off the bat. Right on. Thank you. I'm not using it. I'm playing it as intended with the game auto aiming for me, and that's going fine. You run around and shoot zombies, and then after a while, you pick up some experience points and you get a couple powers. At this point in the demo, I did not have access to the other characters, and some of the stuff was locked out. So I had a very limited ability to kind of like see what the game was about. But I got a good taste for it. I didn't see the depth, but I think I got the flavor for sure. So basically, you just play it like as Vampire Survivors. But then at some point, you'll get like a little SOS, and you go over there, and it's a person, and when you rescue them, they join your team. So rather than having one character, you have two. And each one is auto-aiming on their own, and they each have their own class, and so they're bringing their own things. So you have, like, the Marine to start. He's got, like, a regular pistol, upgrades to, like, a Uzi or submachine gun, something like that. And then I got the Medic next, and they had a taser gun and, like, a taser mine. Or maybe they were an engineer, because they didn't do a lot of healing. Maybe it was an engineer. I don't know. It doesn't matter. And then we got another SOS after a while. I got the heavy gunner guy, and he was like shooting out saw blades, and he had like a shotgun, I think it was. And so the three of you are kind of this cluster of heroes running around, blasting zombies on all sides. And other than that, it plays pretty much like you'd expect. You know, you get levels up, you choose which levels you want, you unlock little powers as you go. It follows the Vampire Survivors mold pretty closely. But again, this was the demo. When I finished the first round, I'm like, okay, that was pretty fun. I'd like to see more. But the demo cuts off right there. You can go into the menu and you see like these pretty expansive skill trees. They're all locked, so I couldn't see them. But there was, I want to say, at least 6 or 8 more characters, and they each have different classes. Each character has a different skill tree. So, and I believe you have a group level up for like everybody, like walk 5% faster, 10% faster. And then each person has specific level ups. So like maybe you've got some points into the Marine guy, you want to up his Uzi, or maybe you want to up the taser or whatever. So you can make individual tweaks. You can do group-wide tweaks. Most of it, like I said, was locked, so I couldn't see the full extent of it. But I mean, it seems like a good foundation, and I do enjoy these kind of games. I think they're really fun just to kind of like relax with, and you know, it's kind of a turn your brain off and enjoy it. And I was having fun with it, so I'm looking forward to getting the full code. PR said they are going to send that, so I'm looking forward to it soon. And then I will jump back in and see what the rest of the game looks like, see how deep it goes, what kind of combos you can get, synergies, what, you know, other modes there are, so forth and so on. But the demo did leave a pretty good taste in my mouth. I liked what I saw, and I am looking forward to playing more. So I will report back when I get the full code. That is yet another Zombie Survivors, playing it on Xbox. All right, last game of the show, and I saved the best for last. I guess I'm a cheerleader for Strange Scaffold, the developer, because I talked about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tactical Takedown, and I loved it. Still playing it. Haven't finished it yet. But that's actually been one of my favorite tactical games of the year. Way better than I ever thought it would be, and it's just really good. Go back to previous episodes if you want to catch that. And at the exact same time, I'm playing another one from Strange Scaffold, and I made the joke before. It seems like they put out a game every 2 weeks, and like, man, maybe that wasn't a joke. I really feel like I'm playing 2 brand new games from the same developer, like within the same month. I mean, dude, these are some hardworking people. The game I'm talking about now is Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3, which is, at first glance, you think, okay, that looks like some kind of shovelware or whatever. I don't know what this is. I don't care about it. But knowing it was from Strange Scaffold, I'm like, okay, so clearly there's going to be more under the hood. Let's check it out. And I'm glad that I did, because this game fucking rocks. It's like really, really good. It's kind of hard to describe what it is in its entirety, but it starts off with the basis of a match 3 kind of game where, you know, 3 in a row, diamonds or, you know, gems or whatever, you match those. So that's like the basis of it, right? But there's lots of different symbols, and those symbols will accumulate very much like a puzzle quest sort of a thing. If anybody's played Puzzle Quest or one of the very many different iterations of Puzzle Quest since then, let's say, for example, you break 3 diamonds. That means you accumulate 3 diamond points, and then your character will have an ability that keys off when you have enough diamond points. So that's kind of how it goes. That is the basis here. And if that's all it was, that would be fine, because I think that's a pretty solid formula. A lot of games really make that work successfully. But on top of that, it is also a visual novel. And on top of that, it's also like a time travel loop game. And on top of that, it's also meta commentary about game development itself and the game's industry. It's kind of got like everything all at once in one place, and it all just tastes really good. It's like a giant burrito full of like 19 different ingredients, and they all just come together to make your mouth sing. The writing is really funny. You play a like Chris Redfield type character going to this dinosaur mansion, and there's a lot of like in jokes about like other games and about game development. At some point, it is revealed that you're going to have to do some time looping to get through this game. So you've got dinosaurs, which you fight. There's also time mechanics. There's also nods to a lot of other stuff. Pretty big Evil Dead reference in there that I thought was pretty fun. So you have various abilities that you unlock, but you need to unlock these by exploring the mansion, and you explore the mansion by going through these like time loops. I'm not going to get into all the details here. I'm not going to get into the narrative, where's, whys, and wherefores and stuff like that. But let's just say that there is a narrative reason why you're going back to do these different loops, and it all makes sense in the context of the game. And so you're exploring different rooms. Sometimes you get to a dead end, you go back to the room you were just in, do another time loop and start over. and you eventually want to explore all the different rooms, get as much experience as possible, upgrade all your perks because each of those perks give you a different ability. And then when you go back to do the match 3s, they're not always the same. So for example, in one room, you might be defusing a bomb. And so the symbols will change. And your goal there is to, I don't know, match 5 fuses in order to, defuse the bomb. Later on, you're going to find a pterodactyl that's attacking you. And you need to attack, like match 5 knives to attack him or something like that. But you'll also have level specific powers. Like your powers change based on which level you're at. So when you're fighting the pterodactyl, one of your powers will be to throw something at it. But that's only there when you're fighting the pterodactyl. When you go back to, the bomb level, one of the powers might be wipe sweat off your brow. And so it resets the timer because you're taking a breath or something. And so each level, despite the fact that they're all based on a match 3 foundation, they all feel slightly differently. And there's different challenges. Sometimes you come up against a boss who's really tough and you got to figure out a way to do real big damage in a hurry. Sometimes you're dodging damage. Sometimes you're doing denial or delay tactics. They've got lots of permutations of the match 3 formula here, and I think they all work really well. The art, I think, is pretty funny. I mean, it's definitely low budget. I think some of it's intentionally, and also some of it is probably just low budget. I would like a little bit more variety in some of the artwork, but they are pretty clever for what they do. They do some really funny developer jokes, some visual jokes that happen. The whole thing is just delightful and funny and goofy and really creative. I think it's just super, super creative. When I talked about TMNT Tactical Takedown, one of the things I really called it out for in a positive way was it's really, really re-examining what a tactical game could be, how it plays, what the pace is, what the expectations and norms are. And I feel like they're doing it again with Creepy Redneck Mansion 3 here, Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3. I really feel like they're taking a match 3 and thinking about how can you restructure this? What else can you do with it? How can you change how the player engages with it? Lots of really clever stuff. The people over at Strange Scaffold, they're smart, man. They're smart, and they know games well enough to be able to play with the very foundation of what a game is and give you different permutations on that. And that's not an easy feat. That is not something that I see every day. It's something that people struggle with. Some people try to do it and fail, but Strange Scaffold, they really they do it again and again and again. They are really batting 1,000 over there as far as I'm concerned. I think Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3 is fucking great. It's a lot of fun, really fresh and exciting. I don't think I've played anything quite like it this year, and I just think it's just very clever, very wink, wink, nudge, nudge, tongue-in-cheek, very humorous stuff. Very, very good. I get the joke. I enjoy the joke. I think this is a great experience, and I'm really glad that I gave it a shot. I give a big, big, big thumbs up to Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3, playing that on the Xbox. Great stuff. All right, folks, game portion of the show is officially done, but like many people, I do spend a few minutes a week in front of screens that don't have menus or life bars. That's right. It is time for the TV and movie roundup. First up, shout out to Murdoch Mysteries. Season 19 just kicked off, and me and the wife are very excited to start it. We're going to let them get a few more episodes in before we start because we're going to devour that like sushi. So we don't want to get caught up too soon. In the meantime, we are going back to get some of the supplemental material. Murdoch Mysteries has been around, as you might guess, for 19-ish years or so. And there's been a lot of fan engagement. There's been a lot of side projects, online, interactive stuff, webisodes, all that kind of supporting material. And so we're going back and doing all of it. Some of it's really cute. There's some little one-offs. There was some animated stuff. There were some short episodes. There were a series of live events that you could participate in where you watched the show and then you physically drove to a location in Canada. Those were pretty cool. And shout out to the person who is uploading all these to YouTube. I want to say they are the artistic detective, artistic investigator. I apologize. Whoever you are, thank you for uploading those because you've been doing great work. Your cuts are very clean, and I appreciate you got all the segments in one section. So we've just been catching up on some of those. It's funny to do some of the interactive stuff because it's not available anymore. You can't play them, but what they did was they recorded all the cutscenes. So you can see all the opening cutscenes, the interstitial cutscenes, and the ending cutscenes. And so you get a pretty good sense of what it was going for. They don't show the gameplay, unfortunately. And I would like to kind of figure those out and just noodle through them. But this is definitely better than nothing for sure. So I think that's great. And we're just kind of just messing around with that and having a good time with it. I will say that we did watch a Murdoch Mysteries movie, which I believe was the progenitor to the TV series. I don't know if I mentioned this already or not, but they did 3 TV movies starring the Murdoch character before they cast the current actors and before they found their current formula, which is certainly stylized for sure. The original Murdoch TV movies, grim, dark, and gross, like so nasty. Everything is black and covered in filth and probably what it looked like during Victorian times or whatever. Just really just like disgusting. And everybody's got bad teeth and they're covered in lice and everything's lit by gaslight. And it's just like, God, this looks miserable. And I get that the current Murdoch series is, like I said, very stylized, very idealized. Everybody looks like they've showered. Even the poor people don't look that dirty and, like all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely cleaned up for sure. And it's fun and I love it for what it is. But coming back to these Murdoch movies, I'm just like, oh my God, it's so dirty and like super, like way more violent than the TV series. Like even in the first episode, me and the wife were like, oh shit, oh my God, that person's naked. Oh no, they stabbed. Oh, like it was just like very, very unexpectedly brutal. So it's wild. We got 2 more movies to watch. I'm not sure if the wife's going to be in for it. I think she was pretty turned off by that, but I'm kind of a completist. And so I do want to see the other 2 movies just to see what it was like. So we'll check that out. And quick side note, Colm Meaney, I think his name is, the guy who plays O'Brien on Star Trek. He plays, Inspector Brackenreed in the show, and he is a dick. It's really funny to see O'Brien show up in a different context. So we're having kind of fun. Well, I'm having fun with that anyway. We'll see. We'll wrap that up and then get to season 19 pretty soon. Beyond that, we just watched a movie starring Nick Kroll and another comedian who is really funny, and I forgot what his name is. I apologize. It's called I Don't Understand You, and I want to say I saw it on, I think it was Netflix. It was in the horror section, but I really don't think it qualifies as horror. I think it's more of like a comedy of errors. Basically, Nick Kroll and his comedy partner, they play a gay couple who are going to Italy for a vacation. They're going through just like this period of life where they need to revitalize themselves. And at the same time, they've been trying to adopt a baby. It's fallen through. And then when they get to Italy, it finally comes through. Like they finally found a mother who wants to let them adopt the baby. It seems like it's all going to happen, so they're very excited. But they're in Italy, and they need to wrap up their vacation. Neither one speaks Italian more than just a couple phrases. And so I'm not going to spoil the whole movie, but basically what happens is they go to this restaurant that's pretty far out in the country, really exclusive joint. And they have a series of like pretty serious cultural and language misunderstandings, and it leads to what is ultimately a incredibly horrible, and like I'm laughing because it's also kind of funny. Like I feel like it's almost a horror comedy, but like so much bad shit happens because of misunderstandings that you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. Oh my God, I can't believe that happened. Like, oh my God, it was wild. It was really funny. So I'm not going to spoil anymore, but I think it was quite good. But it's not really horror. It's not really horror comedy. Like honestly, it kind of felt like a relationship movie. I feel like the 2 leads, Nick Kroll and the other guy, they did such a great job of portraying this gay couple. They were like really sweet and kind, and you could totally feel their longing to have a family. And the way that they kind of played off of each other just felt like so natural and so believable. I was like, okay, like I really like these guys. They're really cool and fun. And like, they just seem to be having a good time and they really mean the best. And they don't really seem to have a dark thought in their hearts. And so I appreciated that. They did a great job. Outstanding performance from both those guys. I would love to watch them in anything else again. And Nick Kroll is a comedy genius. I think he's so fucking funny anyway. If you've never seen the Kroll Show, it's a little out of pocket, but like really, really funny. Definitely good stuff for sure. But I Don't Understand You, quite good. But it's a little slow. Just know it's kind of a relationship movie. Crazy, bloody, whack stuff happens at the end. But really, it's not really horror. It's more about like these guys just having like the worst night of their lives. And it's pretty good. Other movies, we watched I guess a horror comedy movie called Bloody Axe Wound. Man, did it suck. And I only bring it up because it was like so terrible. I don't want anybody else to waste any time on it. It was produced by the wife of Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who is the guy with the spiked bat on The Walking Dead. What the hell? Negan is his name. So Jeffrey Dean Morgan's in a lot of things. I mean, he's great actor in a lot of roles, pretty well known. And I believe it's his wife who produced this film. And this is like one of those situations where I honestly feel like this movie wouldn't have gotten made if she wasn't married to who she's married to, because this movie sucked. But it didn't have to suck, right? Like, so basically there is a town where serial killers live, and they kill the people in the town, and they make videos of it, and they sell the videos to make money, and that's the way that this world works. So that in itself has a lot of different ways you could go, and I feel like there's a lot of potential there, but they just don't understand it. On top of that, there's also a father-daughter dynamic where the father is a serial killer, the daughter wants to take over, and he doesn't want her to because she's a girl. And so there's that whole like sexism dynamic to work through. That could be a whole movie by itself. The structure of the town could be a movie by itself. There's also just like the straight up teen slasher stuff that happens. That could be a movie by itself. I feel like there's like 3 different ideas of movies competing in this film, and none of them wins. None of them is fleshed out. None of them really makes sense. There's just like so many plot holes and logic holes in this film that like you just don't ever connect with it. The performances feel pretty stiff. Kills are pretty few and far between. And it just, none of it made sense. Like I was constantly wondering like, who's paying for these movies and why do these people live here and who's filming this and why aren't they talking more about the economy of it and why aren't they talking about the 9-to-5, wage grind of it, and like why don't they spend more time on the father-daughter relationship, and why don't they do, I mean, it was just like that throughout the whole movie. Like me and the wife were just like, dude, like there's so much left on the table. They just needed like to edit this down, iron it out, pick a couple themes and really enrich them rather than having like all this stuff thrown into a big, just chunky stew that didn't go anywhere. So it's a shame. It's a shame because I feel like there's a couple legit good ideas, but it's not worth watching. None of it comes together. And again, if the producer wasn't married to Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I don't think that she would have gotten this movie made. And in fact, he was in it. He's in it for like the first 2 minutes, but he gets like top billing. So it's definitely one of those bait and switch type things where, someone's friend with someone's famous and then they show up for like a minute to help their friend out and then they bounce. And then the rest of the movie is just watching people who you didn't know who they were and they're not really doing that great a job. So do not appreciate the bait and switch there. And it's just not a good movie. Last movie to call out, Karate Kid Legends. This is the brand new one. Featuring Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio, and also a very, very good leading actor role performed by Ben Wang, youngster, who's, I don't know, he's probably 35, but he looks to me like he's 18 or something like that. I've seen him in a couple things, and he does a great job. I think the last thing I saw him in was American Born Chinese, and I believe that was on the Disney Channel. That was a great show, really good show. Definitely recommend that. And I think Ben Wang does a great job as the leading character in this movie. His nickname is Stuffed Crust, and it is the fucking funniest thing. Basically, they redo the Karate Kid formula, and if you've never seen a Karate Kid film, I find that a little hard to believe because they've been around for like literally decades. But basically, Ben, that's not his name. I think his name in the movie is Lee, moves from China because his mom gets a job. He learns some kung fu. And then he runs into trouble, and then he needs to like go to a tournament. That's like the process of like basically every Karate Kid film. But in this one, they do a lot of retconning to kind of make the new modern Karate Kid fit with the old one. So back in the day, Noriyuki Pat Morita was Mr. Miyagi, the main character, the sensei. And Ralph Macchio was the kid back then. Ralph Macchio is now 63, I think. And Pat Morita is dead. He's been dead for quite some time. So Jackie Chan took over as the new Asian person who knows a lot of things, I guess. But of course, Kung Fu and karate, absolutely different. I mean, there are links for sure, but like they're different martial arts. One's from China, one's from Japan. Like they're not the same thing. And so Jackie Chan, Kung Fu, and Pat Morita in the films was portrayed to be focusing on karate. So different. But they link it all up by redoing this backstory thing, and it was like the opening scene had a young Ralph Macchio and Pat Morita who looked like he was not dead, and I'm like, it's got to be like all AI. Like it looks like they're actually here, very good likenesses, and like I don't know how they did this. It doesn't look like stock footage. They've got to like AI this, but they did this scene where they establish a narrative link between Mr. Miyagi and Jackie Chan's character, Shifu, I forget what his name is. And so that kind of bridges the gap between China and Japan, Kung Fu and karate. And then they kind of just wrap it all up and move it forward. You can't think about it too much. You got to kind of just go with it, which is fine. The wife and I were in the mood for something just light and fun and actiony. We didn't want to think too hard. We'd had a long day and just wanted to turn our brain off. And I think this was the perfect film for it. Ben Wang, super likable. Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio together is fun. having the narrative retcon links to the older Karate Kid films is interesting and a big swing, and I guess it more or less works. So I appreciate that they tried to put it all together rather than just act like the old stuff didn't exist, which always sucks. So overall, it was good. I mean, you get what you expect, and it's kind of what you think it is, and that's fine. And if you're in the mood for that, I think it was good. It's not going to make you think in new ways about the human condition. It's not Shakespeare. But I think that for a fun, family-oriented kung fu movie, I think it really fit the bill. Good stuff. All right, folks, that's a show. Before the closing music, we'd love for you to leave reviews, share the show on social media, but most important of all, please recommend So Video Games to your friends, because nothing beats good old word of mouth. And as always, we'd love to get your questions and comments. Hit me up directly, sovideogamespodcast@gmail.com, or on social media. I'm on Instagram at Blue Sky. It's my name, BRADGALLAWAY, all A's, no O's. You can hit me up in the So Video Games Discord, which is totally free of charge. Just hit me up through any of the channels I just mentioned, and we'll get you on board. And finally, if you would like to support the show and help with the cost of running this podcast and GameCritics.com, you can do that over at patreon.com/the So Video Games Podcast. Every single dollar helps, and a euro helps that much more. All right, folks, that's going to do it for episode 457. Thank you again for joining me here on the So Video Games Podcast, and I'll see you next week.